Please like and subscribe for more. Title: When Wounds Collide, How Dylan Wang and Bai Lu Became the Love Story We Never Knew We Needed. In the glimmering world of C-dramas, where fairy tales unfold with every scene and heartbreaks are only as lasting as the next swoon-worthy confession, it's rare to see real-life love stories that rival the ones on screen. But every once in a while, the universe conspires to bring together two souls who not only understand each other's silence, but also turn each other's scars into stars. That's exactly what happened with Dylan Wang and Bai Lu. At first glance, they couldn't be more different. Dylan, the charismatic heartthrob who shot to fame as Dao Ming Si in Meteor Garden, known for his sharp jawline, playful arrogance, and disarming boyishness. Bai Lu, the stunning and versatile actress who made her mark through intense, emotional performances in dramas like One and Only in Love is Sweet, carrying a quiet strength behind her soft smile. Their paths were parallel for years, often crossing at award shows, magazine shoots, and red carpets, but always from a respectful distance. What fans didn't know, however, was that both Dylan and Bai Lu were nursing wounds the world couldn't see. And when those wounds collided, they didn't create chaos. They created magic. Both stars had their fair share of heartbreak, not just in love, but in life. Dylan, despite his meteoric rise to fame, has long been open about the pressures of the industry. Behind the confident swagger and cheeky grin was a young man who had to grow up fast. Fame brought him adoration, but also loneliness. The constant scrutiny, the weight of expectations, and the absence of privacy slowly wore down the spirited boy who just wanted to act and make people laugh. Then there was Bai Lu. Her story is one of resilience. Losing her father at a young age, she was raised by a single mother who taught her strength through hardship. In the industry, Bai Lu was often cast in strong, emotionally complex roles, but many didn't know how much those roles mirrored her real life. She had been in love once, deeply, but the relationship ended quietly, painfully. Rumors swirled, but Bai Lu stayed silent, choosing dignity over drama. Inside, though, she was carrying her own quiet grief. They were both wounded, but they didn't need saving. They needed someone who understood. The turning point came in 2024, when both were cast in the historical fantasy drama Fated Moonlight, an epic tale of reincarnation, love, and destiny. At first, fans were skeptical. Dylan's brooding, sharp charisma seemed a world away from Bai Lu's gentle grace. But the production team saw something others didn't, a chemistry that couldn't be scripted. And they were right. From the first table read, something shifted. Bai Lu, usually reserved during rehearsals, laughed openly at Dylan's jokes. Dylan, who often ad-libbied and played around during takes, became more focused, more attentive around her. On screen, their characters were soulmates separated by lifetimes. Off-screen, the lines began to blur. He was like a mirror. Bai Lu later shared in a rare interview. He challenged me, teased me, and made me laugh when I want to cry. But most importantly, he listened. Dylan, too, spoke of the connection with uncharacteristic depth. With her, I didn't have to perform. I could just be. She saw through all of it. It didn't happen all at once. They weren't one of those couples who fell in love overnight. Instead, it was a slow burn. The kind of love story built on late-night conversations after filming, quiet glances shared across crowded sets, and text messages that turned into voice notes that turned into heart-to-heart calls. They both had walls, but rather than try to knock them down, they gently climbed over them, brick by brick. Dylan was the first to open up, revealing the loneliness that fame often brings. Bai Lu, instead of offering platitudes, simply listened. Then one evening, under the starlit sky of their filming set, she told him about her past. Not the edited version, but the raw truth. "I don't want you to fix me," she said quietly. "Just stay." And he did. What made their relationship different wasn't the romance or the chemistry, though that was undeniable. It was a friendship, the respect, the way they let each other heal without judgment. They became a team, a safe haven for each other in a world that never sleeps. By the time Fated Moonlight premiered in early 2025, rumors had already begun to swirl. The behind-the-scenes clips showed a comfort that was impossible to fake. The way Dylan looked at her during interviews, The way Bai Lu instinctively reached for his hand when she laughed. Fans noticed, and they loved it. Social media exploded with hashtags like hashtag Dylan Bai Lu Real and hashtag Moonlight Couple. Their scenes trended weekly. Interviews were dissected frame by frame. Suddenly, they weren't just co-stars. They were the couple everyone was rooting for. But they didn't rush to confirm anything. Instead, they let their actions speak. A shared vacation photo. A matching bracelet spotted by eagle-eyed fans. A quote from Dylan during a talk show. Sometimes love isn't loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Gentle. Like moonlight. It wasn't long before they became known not just for their talent, but for their love story. A love that wasn't perfect but real. In a world obsessed with perfection, Dylan and Bai Lu gave us something better. Authenticity. They weren't flashy. They didn't do performative declarations or curated couple content. Instead, they showed up for each other. At events, Dylan would wait by the car for Bai Lu instead of walking ahead. Bai Lu, in turn, always made sure Dylan's jacket was straightened before a photo op. In one now viral fan interaction, a little girl asked Bai Lu what love was. She smiled, looked at Dylan, and said, "It's when your heart finally finds home." They weren't just in love. They were home to each other. Now, as we move into the latter half of 2025, Dylan Wang and Bai Lu continue to thrive, both individually and together. Bai Lu has signed on for a female-led spy thriller, while Dylan is returning to his rom-com roots in an upcoming Netflix collaboration. Yet despite busy schedules and international projects, they always find their way back to each other. Are they engaged? Married? Secretly raising puppies in a cabin in Hokkaido? No one knows for sure. And maybe that's the beauty of it. They're not here to put on a show. They've already given us the best performance of their lives. Being real. What makes Dylan Wang and Bai Lu's love story so special isn't the fame, the beauty, or the success. It's the truth of it. Two people, each with a past, each with pain, finding each other in the noise. And instead of turning away, they stayed, chose each other, chose healing. Their story isn't a fairy tale. It's something better. A testament to the idea that even the most wounded hearts can find love again. That it's okay to be broken. That sometimes broken pieces fit together in the most beautiful way. So here's to Dylan and Bai Lu. Not because they're perfect, but because they remind us that love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who sees your cracks and chooses to stay anyway. And in doing so, creates the greatest love story of all. Before there was a couple, before the swoon-worthy glances on red carpets and behind-the-scenes clips that fans dissected frame by frame, there were two individuals quietly navigating the brutal highs and hollow lows of fame. This is the part of the story that rarely makes the headlines. When Dylan Wang was catapulted to superstardom at just 19 years old, the world saw the rise of a charming, bold, and seemingly unstoppable leading man. His role as Dao Ming-si in Meteor Garden turned him into a household name overnight, and when it came the blinding lights of fame, fortune, and loneliness, the attention was relentless. Airports turned into stampedes, his every laugh analyzed, his every silence misinterpreted. But the cameras didn't catch the Dylan who stood in hotel bathrooms at 3 a.m., staring at his reflection, wondering who he was beneath the glitz. They didn't see the exhaustion behind his smile, the weight of always having to be on. One of his friends once said, "He's the kind of guy who jokes the loudest in the room, but sometimes walks home in silence." He'd had short-lived relationships, some rumored, some real, but none had lasted. "I didn't even know if people liked me for who I was, or who they thought I was," he admitted in a rare, unfiltered moment during a late-night podcast. When you're always performing, even off camera, you start to forget what's real. If Dylan's fame felt like a rocket, Bai Lu's journey felt like a climb. It was steep, silent, and paved with resistance. Long before the public adored her, she was a young girl raised in a modest home in Changzhou, Jiangsu, where dreams often came second to survival. Her father passed away when she was still in her teens, a loss that left her family shaken and her heart with a permanent hollow. Her mother, a pillar of strength, raised her with a quiet resilience that would later define Bai Lu's on-screen presence. In her early 20s, Bai Lu moved to Beijing with nothing but a suitcase and an audacious dream. She faced rejection after rejection, Casting directors told her she was too plain, too gentle, not striking enough. But she kept showing up. Her big break came with the drama The Legends, but success didn't erase the scars. She had known love, deep, all-consuming, life-changing love, but the relationship ended abruptly, without closure. And unlike the characters she played, Lu didn't cry in public. She carried her heartbreak like a silent ghost, present but invisible. There's a story, whispered among crew members, of Lu filming an emotional scene for one, and only where her character mourns a lost love. After the take, when the camera stopped rolling, she didn't move. She just stood there, eyes glistening, shoulders trembling, as if she wasn't acting at all. When Dylan and Lu were first cast together, they weren't excited. They were cautious. Dylan had grown wary of the industry's forced PR romances. Lu, equally guarded, didn't want to become another tabloid headline. But something about this casting felt different. Maybe it was a script, a story about two people destined to meet across lifetimes, always separated by fate, but never by love. Maybe it was the timing. Or maybe it was the quiet understanding that flickered between them in those first few rehearsals. One moment changed everything. It was a rainy afternoon on set. They were filming a dream sequence. Lu's character lay wounded in Dylan's arms. The scene called for vulnerability, grief, and raw emotion. The rain machines poured. The cameras rolled. But as Dylan looked down at her, mud on his robes, raindrops running down his face, something cracked open. His line was simple, "Don't leave me." But his voice broke, not from performance, but from something real. The director yelled, "Cut!" But Dylan didn't move. He stayed there, holding her, as if afraid she might actually vanish. Lu opened her eyes and, for a moment, forgot they were acting. Her hand touched his cheek, not scripted, just human. It was the first time anyone on set saw them like that. Not as actors, not as co-stars, but as two people feeling something real. Later that night, Dylan left a note in Lu's trailer. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't dramatic. It simply read, "You don't have to hide around me." She didn't reply, but she kept the note in her phone case for the rest of the shoot. The beauty of their story is not in the grand gestures. It's in the quiet ones. A crew member once recounted how Dylan, known for being impatient with long waits, would sit silently next to Lu while she got her hair styled, scrolling through his phone, occasionally passing her gummy bears. Or the time Lu stayed on set 2 hours after her scenes wrapped, just to watch Dylan film a complicated stunt. "I just want to make sure he's okay," she said when someone asked why she stayed. They never needed to confess what was already understood. Both had lived long enough with pain to recognize it in someone else. But instead of trying to fix each other, they allowed each other to breathe. Lu taught Dylan that silence wasn't weakness. Dylan reminded Lu that laughter didn't mean forgetting. It meant surviving. In each other, they found mirrors, not the kind that reflect back perfection, but the kind that show your scars and say, "You're still beautiful." They didn't fall in love to escape their pasts. They fell in love because of them. They didn't come together with fireworks. There was no grand reveal, no sudden kiss in rain, no over-the-top fanfare. Instead, it was a slow unfolding.